Hi, this is Ed again, and I have no idea what day. Yeah, I think is today the 13th, Glenn.
Yes.
So today is June 13th. It's a Sunday. The year is 2021, and I'm here to make another video for the YouTube channel Atheist, a Bird with No Cage. And okay, again, totally unscripted, but I have a specific idea that I'm probably going to butcher. But here we go. The idea I want to talk about is I guess we could call it a psychological issue. It's how we are as human beings. And it seems that there's people that like to have authority in their lives. In other words, somebody else deciding what they do and when they do it. So the other side of that coin, or the opposite attitude, is the people who want to have control. And I'm on that side of the fence. I want to have control, all the control of my life that I can have. So that's got ramifications. Politically, of course, I have to follow certain rules, but I want to ensure that rules don't unnecessarily confine my, how I live my life or anything like that. As it reflects on religion, that's why I'm an atheist. I don't believe in the idea of deities or religion, and I don't want there to be that, and I certainly will not allow religion to control my life. Okay, socially, it's the same thing. In my relationship, the closest relationship I have in the world, the last 35 years with my wife, Glenn, as much as we can, we totally share authority in our life, in our day-to-day, and we totally share. There's only one money pot. We share everything that way. The problem is that when we look around the world, and especially right now, I'm really concerned about what's going on in Canada. It seems on the one hand, the Canadian government, I'm not even sure which conservatives and the name of the Prime Minister is Trudeau, which is the second. His father was Prime Minister of Canada 40, 60 some years ago. Now he's Prime Minister of Canada, and I don't want to point necessarily at him, but it's part of human nature that governments want to control people. It just seems like a thing. And I mean, government has always been that way, so that's nothing new or anything. The part that worries me is that it looks like Canadian people are pushing back very, very little. They are not pushing back the way I think they should be. They should be asking questions. Like we're watching a baseball game right now. Can't hear it. Glenda just turned the sound down. But why, for example, can the Blue Jays, the Toronto Blue Jays, not play in Toronto? They have to play in their home games in an American city. And when you flesh that thing out, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's ridiculous. By the way, the Blue Jays team is playing incredibly well. They have their ups and downs, but like today, they're apparently beating the hell. I think we're leading. What's the score in the game, Glenn? 5-1. 5-1. We're in the third inning or so. We're ahead 5-1 ahead of the Boston Red Sox, who are a very strong team in the American League East. But anyway, as I said, this is a thing that I think it's a human nature thing, but I'm concerned about how it reflects on religion, politics, and social life. Now, I've already been doing this thing, and a lot of times that's the way the discussion goes. I don't believe that this God thing exists, and sometimes you'll get people saying, people like me that we call ourselves atheists, we just don't want there to be an authority. It's not that I don't want there to be a God, it's that I don't believe there is. I just don't, I can't even see how it's even possible in any scientific or where any sense of reality. It just seems to me to be a fairy tale-like idea that some people want. And again, totally shotgunning. I remember years ago, I looked up Ralph Waldo Emerson, and some of his writing. I admired his writing, and I still do. He's a brilliant guy. But somewhere in his writing, he said this thing that at first, here's what he said. First of all, he said something like, and this is pretty close to, although it's my words. He basically said that slavery is the only true freedom. And you know, when you think about that kind of thing, if you're a slave, how exactly are you free? We're using the word free in a strange way, but I think I went, hold it now. That sounds like a religious kind of thing. Once we hear the same kind of thing. Once you totally give your life to God or Jesus or whatever they say, I give my life to this being, then, according to the religious argument, then you are free. How the hell that makes any sense? It's just like saying, when you have no freedom, then you're free. That's what it sounds like it's saying. And it makes no sense to me. The problem that's going on in Canada right now is, I understand there's a fine line between a government having total control and individuals having control. But the Canadian government seems to me to be showing its colors in a lot of ways, like the idea of controlling borders. I mean, that's what's going on with our beloved baseball team right now. They've got this Rogers Center, or it used to be called the Sky Dome in Toronto. It's it's as good a baseball park as there is in the world. probably. And it just seems like if the Canadian government has its way, what are we going to do? Turn it into a chicken coop or something like that? I mean, here's this beautiful big stadium with a roof which can be closed or open, and the Blue Jays are playing in a second-rate, their home games in a second-rate park in Buffalo. So I'm hoping, one of the things I'm hoping is that Canadian people will start to say, hold it, we have to push back against this. We can't have a government telling us when we can leave our country or when we can move around freely, even within our country. Now they seem to be making restrictions. They just seem to be making more and more restrictions. And on the issue of, I say the Canadian government says you can't leave Canada, you're a Canadian citizen, you can't leave Canada. Canadians go, oh no, we can leave. And the Canadian government says, oh yeah, you can leave, but to come back, you have to follow these very strict rules. In other words, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Well, if you're a working person, you've just been on a couple of weeks holidays, and you come back and you can't work for another 2 weeks, you have to quarantine, you know. What's the difference between that and saying you can't leave your country? So I'm really concerned that currently the Canadian government is pushing hard in this direction of complete control of the Canadian people. And the Canadian people are going along with it. They have that reputation of not rocking the boat. So, yeah, the government says we have to stay home. We have to stay home. And it kind of reminds me, it sounds very much like the abusive parent says, yeah, I'm beating you or making these strict rules for your own good. And if the child's asked, why do I have to do that? The answer is, you have to do it because I say so. No explanation, nothing required. And it looks to me like that's what's happening. And when I make references to North Korea, for example, the people of North Korea, I would suspect that most people who live in North Korea think they live in a wonderful country. This country protects them, and they're taught to believe that countries like the United States and even Canada are terrible places. They say, look at those places, they have all kinds of problems. People demonstrate against the government. Well, here in North Korea, no, the people do not ever demonstrate against the government. Yeah, that's for sure. You know why? Because if you do, you end up with a bullet in you, sort of thing. And they just get used to that. And once again, the government argues, especially in North Korea, and any government that is trying to increase their authority and control of people argues, we're doing it for your own good. Currently, the reason that governments can get away with that, especially that right now the Canadian government, they're using this worldwide pandemic, whatever you believe about what's going on there, but they're using that as an excuse to change rules and control people's movement. They control your ability to meet with other people. You can't do that. You can't have meetings. You can't have church meetings. You can't have political meetings. And just think about what that sounds like. Yeah. Oh, Well, they're doing it for our own good. They're doing it to protect us. If we have meetings, we could be in danger of passing the this new virus around or something, the coronavirus or COVID-19 or whatever you choose to call it. Anyway, I'm babbling, but the basic idea that I really want to get out there and hopefully put in people's minds to be concerned a little bit about when you see a government exerting more authority over people, get worried, push back, ask why. Always, always ask why. Be like the child in the class that says, why do I have to do that? If there's not a good answer, and the answer that, if the government's answer is, you have to do it because we're the government and we tell you you have to do it, that's not a good enough answer, sorry. Okay, I think this idea about authority as opposed to individual rights and control, I want to have the right to live my life as much as I can the way I want to live it, and with as little interference from anywhere else as possible, including from governments. Government control is a huge danger. Maybe giving individuals control arguably can have its problems, but we have no choice. Do you want to live in a North Korea, or do you want to live in a society that says you have the right to free speech, you have the right to movement, to travel where you wish, and those kind of things, or what? It's time to think seriously about those, and do not let a government, just because it's called the Canadian government, if we do a little bit of history checking on the Canadian government, you'll see some serious problems there. What went on in Quebec with children who were put in homes because they had no parents, and what happened in I guess that would be in the 50s with Duplessis and that government. There's some horror there. We need to guard against that kind of thing, and guard against our Canada, the free North. How does the song go? Oh, Canada, glorious and free. Yeah. Well, just be careful, Canadians. Please ask questions. I'm not suggesting total revolt or anything like that, but we need to always ask hard questions and use the pressure of the vote and your right to speak out against what governments are doing. Use those rights regularly, or you will lose them. Okay, I failed to mention this time that, by the way, I don't know, maybe I'm shooting to be one of the oldest, or the oldest YouTubers on the planet, across the board. I'm an actor, an atheist activist, only with this channel. This is the only thing I do actively, but I'd just like to mention that. I'm 81 years old, and I'd be interested to have any challenges of people who are, no matter what you're doing, even if you're religious and you're arguing that way, you're doing a YouTube channel or that kind of thing, even if you're on the opposite side from me, I'd like to hear about you, because I'm kind of making I can't prove it, I don't have any evidence that maybe I'm the oldest YouTuber on YouTube. And so anyway, once again, please think about the idea of imposed authority as opposed to individual authority in areas, especially areas of politics, religion, and the social realm. In all of those areas, it's those two opposing ideas are very important for human beings. And that's all we're going to do for today, so thank you. Once again, my name is Ed. This is Atheist, a Bird with No Cage. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one.